Today, we dive into finding harmony amid life's chaos. Imagine your garden after a storm, seeking sunlight, much like us seeking light in turmoil. We all face identity struggles, feeling spiritually adrift, and the fast pace of modern life. Oh my goodness. Our special guest, Devon Kerns, shares and redefines a narrative of shame, guilt, and judgment. We'll explore sin, presence, and purpose as growth opportunities. You'll gain insights for spiritual realignment, finding joy in faith, and discarding outdated constructs. We'll share wisdom to help you manage chaos with grace and curiosity, inspiring you to be a change agent in the world. Let's ask questions that open exploration doors and find hope in the human experience. This episode is a call to action. Engage with your humanity and divine connection to foster purpose. Together, we're living spiritually brave. I'll see you on the inside. Hello from the Pacific Northwest. This is Kristen from KristenWambach.com, and you're listening to Interviewing Jesus podcast. Answer me this. How does a Baptist farm girl from Oregon stumble upon the mystical nature of Christ, the love of God? If you're like me, Jesus has redefined what you used to say yes to. Join me and my guests on a mystical journey. But before we talk about the spiritual woo-woo, you need to know I am totally sold out to Jesus. It's amazing what the love of God reveals. Hello and welcome to Interviewing Jesus podcast. Hello, family. How are you today? We have a special treat today here, Devon Kerns. Now, let me tell you just a little bit about him. He's driven by a passion for innovative business architecture. He's crafting a new reality, a world where AI, conscious leadership, and spiritual growth, they intertwine. For over 25 years, Devon has been at the forefront, founding and growing companies in wellness, tech, media, sustainable development, and land trusts. But his work goes so much deeper than business. Envision dedicating more than 11,000 hours to guiding Fortune 500 executives, political leaders, and nonprofits. It's akin to being a compass guiding explorers through the unpredictable terrain of change. Can we talk about change, please? Today, Devon is steering boards, nonprofits, and movements focused on healing people, land, and economies. He and his teams aren't just dreaming of change, they are constructing it piece by piece. Prepare for a conversation that will shift your view on wealth, technology, and human potential. Let's explore what it really means to usher in a new era. Hey, welcome, Devon.
Okay. Of all the podcasts I've done, that was hands down the best introduction. I hope I live up to that.
Well, yes. It was fun. I get to reword it and make it sound kind of like me and kind of like you. And it just broadens the whole spectrum of what we want to talk about here today. So welcome. We are so glad that you are here. Would you please share with our listening family where you are located? And what role do you see yourself playing in contributing to a new era of growth and transformation?
Well, the easy answer there is where I'm from. I'm in Denver, Colorado. Was born here and lived in many other places, including out of country, but back home for now.
Cool.
Contribution to the change. You know, my gift is really from a deep place of love and empathy with a desire to create really what I feel like a large majority of the world is asking for, which is how are we getting to a more harmonious place in our cities, in our governments, in our world? And we mistake maybe heart and harmony for sometimes softness or weakness. But in this case, there is something about me that definitely holds a strength within the ability to maintain a loving perspective, but still have this force of nature that moves us into action and really brings about a question of what is it I really want? What is it we really want to create? And how can we do it together?
Well said. Well said. I was enjoying how you use harmony and heart, and they're strong. And
Hmm.
sometimes we really have to focus on how do we make it a strength.
Hmm. Yep, no question. It can be extremely soft, but it can also be a hurricane. And sometimes we need we all know the adage in a forest fire, as an example, the heat is what actually releases the seeds or the pine nuts within a pine cone in order for those seeds to break free from the pine cone. And we're looking at whatever analogy you want to state, particularly in Western culture in the U.S., really around the world, to be honest. There's fire, there's hurricane. It's all getting stirred up, and I absolutely love the chaos. Because if you can step away from it, or if you can move into the eye of the hurricane, as that additional analogy, you can see what is really unfolding here. And it is a collective desire for change and a collective fear of that change. And it's happening all at once. And I think we just need to learn to ground it and breathe through it, right? As we were talking just before we started.
Mhm, mhm. You have leadership roles that focused on healing people, healing the land, and economies. In our conversation before, you shared that you had encounters with Jesus. What did he say and or relate to you? And how does that transformation, how does it transfer to people, the land, and the economies? What he
Mm.
shared with you in that encounter? What did you perceive?
It was a pretty long conversation, which I wasn't expecting, if I'm going to be honest. I grew up in a Christian family, and I also pushed it away for a period of time. And as I have done really deep, deep searching over the last years or so, I've had these precious moments of call it finding a different presence, finding a different place other than just being embodied, where I could deepen my relationship with God and with Jesus and the Christ. And as I sat with this incredible and hilarious, Jesus was so funny. It was a long dialogue, but the gist, the main thing that I really walked away with is, in our world, doesn't really matter what kind of aspect of spirituality we're talking about. We hear this conversation about being a light warrior and fighting for the light and so on and so forth. And he leaned over to me and he whispered in my ear, he goes, can we just tell everybody that light, we're never going to glow. We're never going to become light as human beings. What I'm really trying to say is lighten up. Stop taking this so serious. And I sat there laughing for quite some time with him around how serious I take things, how serious I've been through my life. And there are things that are very, very, very real, right? I've had excruciating pain in my life and devastation and trauma. But today, in this now present moment, those things aren't happening to me. And so, what state, what perspective am I carrying with me? And it really shook me to my core to learn how to dance even in the chaos or the pain in a state of lightness. How can we be lighter, less dense about the things that are taking place? And I do think that that is a daily devotional practice. But as I have been in that practice for many years now, I find that the resistance around me seems to shift only for that which I desire and that which wants to flow through me and be of service instead of seemingly being a victim the entire time and having the world against me.
So, can you give us a more of that picture? Because we started out, we have the harmonies in the heart,
Mhm,
and the dance is kind of in between both of those things.
mhm.
Because the dance is very much aware of what's going on around us, even aware of the chaos, but to find that to actually pick up the cadence of the heart, I mean, that takes practice.
Total and absolute devotion and practice. And devotion and practice are actually very separate things that, when combined, are supportive and conducive to real perspective shifts. And we don't change when we devote ourselves to a practice. We don't change. We become more of what we are in a natural state. And I think a lot of people are seeking change instead of seeking wholeness and that harmony and that wholeheartedness. And so, yeah, the dance is in between. The dance is finding the ability, regardless of what's happening in the world, or in most cases, what's happening in my mind, finding the ability to get present and recognizing what is actually happening now. And I mean right this second. I don't mean what's happening outside of the room. I don't mean what's happening or started happening to you yesterday. I mean, are you in the space you're in right at this very second safe? Are you okay? Are are there things actually happening to you right here, right now? Or are things actually at least okay? And what I've found is a lot of people come to me as I do these talks and meditations and things on Insight Timer, and I go live and we'll have a couple hundred people per room. Some people come in saying, Devon, can we talk through how I might be able to shed from an energetic perspective using spirituality, source, God, my own power to shed this permanent pain that I'm in, this actual physical pain I'm in? And let's assume, I mean, it's happened well more than 10 times, but I would dare to say 9 out of 10 times, I'm called to ask that person a very important question. If you were to be here with me right now, and I mean right now, and we're 1 hour and 36 seconds and 10 seconds and 11 seconds and 12 seconds in this 13th second, are you in pain right now? 9 out of 10 times are like, actually, no. I'm like, wow, that's very interesting
Mhm.
that you are dragging from a conscious psychological perspective a pain that might have been there 5 minutes ago. But in this now moment, you believed you were in pain, but the pain actually isn't there when you're present. And so the power of presence actually doesn't just shift us out of physical pain, it brings us into a reality to which we can recognize that most of us, at least in Western culture, particularly in the United States, this isn't true globally, this isn't true in Israel, this isn't true in Africa and certain parts of Africa. Right? For us, where we are in a highly protected, highly safe environment, there is no lion attacking me right now. If we can get really grounded and devoted to that practice, to being completely present and asking, in this now moment, is everything okay? Am I at least okay? You can start from there and begin to shift and create a whole new reality, including physical pain.
Mhm. Agreed.
And we're done.
Nah, nah. I'm just thinking. Question.
Yes.
How do we bring our awareness so that when we step away from this present moment, I can look at you, you can look at me. How do we bring our awareness so that when I step away from having the conversation with you, that pain or that circumstance just doesn't envelope us again, envelop us? Yeah.
My perspective on that is to be totally okay in the forgetting. So in other words, if we usually the pain and suffering and the mental anguish and anxiety and the psychological behavior of predicting the future or getting stuck in the past, all those things occur because we're human.
Mhm.
There really isn't going to be an escape of that. If we stepped within Christianity and we stepped outside of Christianity, there's an assumption that the great masters also weren't human. And the truth is they were. The difference is how fast they get back into alignment. Right. So that let's say you're walking on this tightrope that is this balance of staying on this line of awareness and presence. You fall off. Most of us stay off for quite some time because we build up guilt, shame, judgment, and all of those things keep us trapped in the idea that I felt good, now I don't feel good. And then I ask questions like, why? Why is one of the most disempowering questions we can ask ourselves. And so instead, just own it, know that it's okay, and then go back to the present moment. Take that deep breath and move back into the present moment. I mean, I literally have devoted the majority of my life to this, and I'm not going to stay there, nor do I care to actually stay there. I love being human. I love screwing things up. I love what I call devoning. I'm not here to be enlightened. I'm here to have the greatest Devon experience that I could possibly have, which requires a wholeness, which includes that being, that soul, that spirit, that God, that Christ frequency embodied in my experience.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't be on this planet if I wasn't meant to be devoning. So we build up so much guilt and shame around that that it actually keeps us trapped. And for me, I love being off that tightrope, and I love jumping back on. And so without that place of judgment and shame and guilt for not being wherever we think that we're supposed to be instead of just enjoying where we're at right now, even in the forgetting of who we really are and our connection to source and God and everything else. If we just give ourselves permission to allow wherever we are to be what it is, all of a sudden we stop anchoring ourselves and pulling ourselves deeper and deeper down into that frustration, into that pain, and into that trap.
I like that. I like the way you said that. Yeah, it's true because, well, I find myself struggling with that too. If I fall off the tightrope, as the metaphor that you used, or I pick a fight with my husband and then I come back. It does sometimes take me a while to just deal with it. And mostly the dealing with it is dealing with me. Like, I know better. I shouldn't have done this. I triggered. I did this. And you're right, that shame and guilt that we carry within ourselves, it does. It keeps us from getting back into the present of, hey, I'm safe. I'm okay. The day is recoverable,
Mhm.
and where I'm going and what I desire to do and experience in the day is still very possible.
Mhm. Are you okay if I'm transparent about what pushed me out of the church for a while? It's exactly what we're talking about. Shame, guilt, judgment.
Yeah.
From the podium.
Mhm.
And I as a kid, I remember feeling something so deeply as we would listen to music, as we would be reading from scripture, particularly Jesus' words. And then there would be an interference, and that interference was somebody we're supposed to be looking up to who's supposed to be this guru, God, pastor titled thing. And God bless him for doing it. Like, I'm not knocking any of these people. But the minute they take what was and convert it to what they think it is, there's distortion there. There just is going to be. It's a perspective that isn't a true filter. I mean, it's a filter that isn't a truth. And I as a child, I just sat there going, wait a minute. Something's not hitting me the way it was just a second ago when we were in this pure state of connectivity to God. Something got diluted there, and I don't, and it always came back to shame on you for who you are. And I'm like, what if we're created in his image and he created us in the first place and he's the almighty beginning, middle, and end? It's not surprising what I'm doing to him or to God, right? It shouldn't be shocking that I am what I'm doing right now. And so I just had this like ickiness in me and I couldn't shake it. And as I lost my father to suicide and 6 other people between the ages of 13 and 14 years old and sat at more funerals talking about wherever they're going more than I sat in a schoolroom. I would sit on the beach for more hours than I would sit in a classroom, really exploring all this stuff. And I found my version of what felt right, which was just trying to access that pure channel without interference from human beings and letting them say whatever they're going to say without latching on to what they're sharing, right? I don't have to connect myself to what they're sharing and they can share as they believe. But I need to find my own path within that. I need to find that heart-centered truth for me and shifted me. I didn't quite understand it. I can't say that I totally know right now. I think it's always an exploration at deeper and deeper levels. But I really honed in on one particular aspect, and that was this word sin that carried so much weight. I was like, what is the word? Like, I'm obsessed with wording. I'm obsessed with the spelling of things. How are we casting these words out into the world, and what do I really mean? Brene Brown is a perfect example. If you I've listened to her, she is like, we need a better articulation of our emotional state. Mm-hmm. Because just saying I'm sad when my dad killed himself isn't the right word. I'm sad when I didn't get the toy that I wanted, right? That's sad. Devastation, other words that express emotion, right? We're not good at that. And so I've become obsessed with those words. And as I have felt into the definition and felt into the opposition, meaning I don't just explore the word, I explore the opposite frequency of that word. Sin always fascinated me. And I did some research around it. I'm not going to get this perfect, but I think in Hebrew, then translated through Latin or vice versa, sin didn't mean eternal damnation and hell. Sin was just a word that was used as an example in archery. If I was shooting my arrow and the arrow sinned, it missed the mark. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait, hold on. From that context, we are never going to be God. We're always going to miss that mark. So yeah, I was born missing the mark, designed intentionally to miss that mark. But somehow that turning into complete judgment and eternal damnation fascinates me. And when I work with people who are Christian, when I work with people who are spiritual, when I work with people all around the world, there is this heavy, the more spiritual they are, the more shame that seems to come along with that. And my heart shatters for them because my experience of God through particular conversations with Jesus, it is going back to that initial thing we talked about, which is it's so light. It's just light. Like there's a humor to it all. There's a lightness to it all. There is a sensation of, wow, we have really dug ourselves a heavy hole here. Let's lighten up a little bit, right? And I can't say that I am in any way, shape, or form perfect, but I am nowhere near trying to be, because it's all just fun. Not the bad stuff happening on the planet, not the things that need to be eradicated, but we have to ask ourselves, what's the origin of where that came from? And most of that came from shame, guilt, and judgment. The hatred, the war came and stemmed from this hatred of other. And it doesn't, I just think it needs to end, but it has to start with us.
I agree. It has to start with us. I'm going to throw in one disagreement with your statement.
Perfect.
One disagreement, you said that we came into this world missing the mark, and that we will always miss the mark. I'm going to I'm not. I like how you said that it's missing the mark. I have collected the thought, and it's literally coming out of harmony with our original sound. That's the way that I understand it. And so if you come out of harmony, sometimes just like an instrument, it's just a matter of learning how to play it so that you can hold the right. There's a learning to hold the right tone, the right key, the right breath mark with an instrument to be able to play it in the sound that we desire to play it. I'd suggest that we miss the mark more often when we try to play that instrument with other people.
What I'm feeling in what you're saying, because I couldn't agree more, is there's our resonance. There's our note, right? There's Kristen as a part of a song, and the note that you play in this world and in this universe from God. When what I'm referencing in terms of missing the mark is the idea that I was taught from the Christian world, which is we are born sinners. And I couldn't get myself to resonate with that. I couldn't understand that until I understood the definition. And from that definition, if God is the mark, knowing we are a stream of consciousness and his dream, God's dream, created by the creator, we aren't intended to be God. If that was the mark, we're intended to be the expression. My note, if he's the full song, if God's the full song, I'm a note within that song. So there's two probably marks that we're talking about here. The reference I'm making is you can fully admit that I'm never going to become God, because that's not the game we're playing. I am an expression of that. I am a dream of that. I am a creation from that source. On the flip side, my mark, Devon's mark, is that note. And that's the mark I can hit as that divine expression from God. And I completely agree with you there that if I can hear that note and play that note and feel that note and sing that note into the world, that is true alignment. And from that, all judgment, all suffering is eradicated, because there's nothing there other than that song from that instrument playing what we really came here to play, which is the song of creation. And harmony would be when we're all playing that, when we're all finally playing that. That would be that heaven on earth scenario, when we've let go of the tightening of that cord so that we're constantly missing that note.
It's a great metaphor.
That was a good one. We went from shooting an arrow to playing a beautiful instrument.
Yes, it is. I like the shooting. I like the shooting the arrow one very much.
Mm-hmm. What it did for me in just feeling that arrow is it gave me permission to not judge the sin, however big or however small. Because we're shooting arrows every day. And I think that's a part of our issue is we're trying to hit the mark with every arrow instead of just having fun on the planet, right? And if sinning isn't this eternal consequence, but it just means pull out the arrow and shoot again. Get as close as you can to the center of that bullseye, right? Then all right, I'll do it again and do it again and do it again. It created that lightness in me because I recognized the frequency of what that word means and not what was projected onto that word.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lots of great thoughts. Lots of great thoughts. Yeah. I'm sitting here teetering between. I have a couple of questions I'm looking at, and I'm going,
What do you feel?
I'd like to unpack a little bit more that sound, that frequency, that arrow to hit the bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
But when we think about releasing that arrow, of pulling it back and holding it, and we think of our aim, I want to think about people. I want to think about healing the land
Mm-hmm.
and healing the economics, not of just our own country, but of the world. How can we learn to be present and realize that our arrow is has the ability to actually make that change and that difference by that release?
I hate to contradict the question, but I'd probably go back to the instrument for this
That's
one.
fine.
If you've ever tuned a guitar or been around when somebody's tuning a piano, it goes back to what we were just talking about, and that is if it is too tight, it's not going to hit that note. And if it's too loose, it's not going to hit that note. That doesn't make it wrong. The other key component to this is, let's say I'm shooting for C sharp.
Mm-hmm.
If my guitar is too tight, it's tuned too tight, and it's not hitting C sharp, does that mean the note of C sharp doesn't exist?
No.
Right. The frequency, the note is always there. All I have to do is play with the tuning to find its resonance
Mm-hmm.
and to hit that note. And I'll know when I hit that note because it sounds of that note. It's kind of the gift of having those notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at land has a harmonious nature to it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a part of the song. And if we leave it alone, it makes its way back to playing the same song that it was always destined to play. Because it's attuned to that. Nature isn't ever out of harmony. We, through our conscious thinking, are the only creatures that have the ability, because of free will, because of choice, to wind ourselves too tight or wind ourselves too loose and miss the note. But if you've ever seen Biggest Little Farm,
Mm-mm.
watch it. It's one of the most beautiful. So this guy happened to be, and his wife, he was in production. And the short story is they bought this dog, and this dog was barking a lot. And so they got kicked out of their apartment and had to figure out what to do. And they'd always had this dream of moving to this farm and creating this harmonious space. Now, one of the numbers that's always mentioned in Christianity is the number 7.
Mhm.
Things have a tendency to run in 7-year cycles. We shed all of our cells in 7-year cycles.
Mhm.
Not strange. It took them 7 years, allowing this entire farm to come back to a natural state. After those full 7 years, what you see in the movie is in the documentary is perfect harmony. When there was too many rats at some point, or too many mice at certain points, or too many snails eating all the fruit from the tree, then they needed a few more ducks, and realized that the ducks don't need to be in the pond. The ducks need to be over where those snails are, because ducks love snails.
Mhm.
And all of the sudden, there were animals burrowing underground and destroying the roots. But then when the coyotes came back, they used to hate the coyotes because the coyotes were killing their sheep. But then all of a sudden, they needed more coyotes to actually eat these little varmints that were eating the roots. So ultimately, through this game of back and forth, playing this great combination and just allowing nature to do what it did, it sang this perfect song. They didn't need pesticides. They didn't need animal killers. They didn't need traps. They didn't need anything. The hawks were back. The owls were back. Everything was back. And it is one of the most magical places you can go visit today. We're learning how to do this with the land, but unfortunately, we thought we knew how to do it better. And so what we ended up doing in things like farming, as an example, is we would go till the land. Well, tilling the land actually releases CO2 in the air, which then creates more carbon in the air, which then affects the ability to create, right? All these things. It's just like, I wish we would just stop fighting about this stuff. It's so stupid. Like, just look at what works and look at what doesn't work and get the politics out of it, right? Get
Mhm.
your opinion out of it. Does it work? Does it not work? If it works, let's just do more regardless of your opinion. And so what we're seeing is that because we were tilling the land, because we were growing things the way we wanted to grow it, now all of a sudden we had to actually use science to adjust the seed so that it could grow in environments that would actually repel bugs and blah, blah, blah. And then when that wasn't working, then we created chemicals that we put on the things in order to.
Mhm.
But you go over to the biggest little farm, they don't need any of that stuff because nature knew how to do it far before we were here.
Mhm.
And so it's just, it's, and healed land heals people. If you walk in nature, there is healing going on. That is
Mhm.
not a question anymore. So the harmony of a natural state heals that which you are because you came from there. There's no story on the planet, regardless of what religion it comes from, that doesn't say we aren't from the soil. That means we are a part of it. And so when we can feel the song again by connecting to it, it has the ability to heal us. And by the way, as we heal ourselves, heal the land,
Agreed.
right? And so it is this song where the notes already exist. The guitar is just wound way too tight. I don't know that it's wound too loose. I haven't found that one yet. I haven't found the person. Well, maybe if they're a stoner, they might be a little wound, a little too loose. And not a judgment, just tighten that up a little bit, right? And you'll be playing a song that has a little more frequency to it. So, and the same thing goes with economics, right? This currency, regardless of what currency we're talking about. Currency is an energy.
Mhm.
It's an exchange. And it's intended for reciprocity. It's intended in that process of, you have something I desire, here's something you desire. That's an exchange of energy. And at its simplest form, it is a part of creation. A leaf falling from a tree just converts into a different energy that then results in a new leaf in spring. That's an exchange. There needed to be the leaving of the old leaf in order for the new leaf to be born. There's constantly a state of reciprocity in all of nature. Somehow, again, we have decided that we're going to interfere in that process. And we're going to cling. We're going to try and hold on to as many leaves as we possibly can. Nature doesn't work that way. We don't need to work that way. When we actually realize it's about the free flow of currency in any market, flowing to that which is growing, flowing to that which is creating value, flowing to that which is expansive, the game changes. I don't care if we create a new currency, which people are trying to do. The problem is, God bless them, but we have a whole lot of really smart nerds who said we're going to change the game and have a free market again. And what do the minute they get 1 billion Bitcoin? They trap it, they stick it, and they own it instead of letting it flow. And we see story after story after story after story that's coming out on Netflix and other places of all these people interfering in what is a natural state. Now, we can't heal economics if we aren't healing ourselves. If we aren't willing to open ourselves up, not to giving. I don't think we have a giving issue on the planet. I think we have a receiving issue on the planet. Because if we started with the ability to open up to what is already here for us, realizing how incredibly blessed most of us are, you can receive that blessing as, wow, no matter where I am right now, I at least have a roof over my head. I at least have some food in my hand. I can if I'm spending my last $5, I can walk on a sidewalk that I didn't create. I can walk into a grocery store that I didn't have to create. I can walk and pick up a piece of fruit or vegetable that I didn't have to grow. Millions of hands were involved in that entire process to get you a grocery store to which you could at least consume something. I don't care where you are in life. I have walked down the street passing somebody that I watched get handed a $20 bill that was begging for money on the side of the road, and I had less money in my bank account than they probably did in that little bucket. I've been there, and I spent my last dollars to feed myself from a place of abundance. And within a few days, I had a new client, a new business, we need to open up to the expansiveness of this entire game instead of shrinking and trapping and hoarding and consuming and protecting from a place of brokenness.
That was profound.
I was just talking about a guitar, man.
No, but that was profound. When we began, you shared the time that when you were in one of your classes, you're teaching things, and there was this guy that came in with pain. And when he got present, he realized the pain wasn't there. We have to be brave enough to actually have a call to action to invite people to get present. How do we do that?
I'm feeling two versions of this question. How do I do that? And then how can I do that in support of other? Start with the supporting of other. because we have a tendency to look at other people and go, you need to get present. A lot easier for us. Talking doesn't do it. Curiosity can. Questions can.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is this: when I start talking about something, I have a tendency to only be pulling from a past perspective and using that past perspective to predict a future outcome, which keeps me out of the present moment. Now, if we look at the power of curiosity, particularly the power of questions, a well thought through question isn't about anything other than asking your first question and then continuing to go deeper and deeper into better questions until you get to a resonance question that seems to hit somewhere in your body at a deeper level than the mind, wherever that stuckness is. Now, I'll bring this back to presence here in a minute, but to really understand the power of a question, we need to imagine asking ourselves a question outside of the framework that we've all been programmed with since we were kids, which is you have to know the answer. The key to the most powerful question, whether you know the answer or not, is to just leave the question alone and not seek an answer. As you create a question that has some potency to it, I view questions like containers. An unanswered question is open-ended. That means it created a space. A question that is open, with no need to fill it, stays open for a little while. So the most powerful way to get present is to just ask yourself, how can I feel in my full body, totally present right now? Don't look for the answer. Just keep asking the question. And as we stay in the question, we start realizing we have the capacity to move out of mind, and a different answer starts almost bubbling up from the body. The body has, in my not so humble opinion, far deeper wisdom than this brain does. This is an intellectual tool. My mind is an intellectual tool for experience and survival.
Mm-hmm.
To feel emotion from that experience is also of service of the mind. It gives me a biochemical reaction that we call emotional states.
Mm-hmm.
But feeling something from the body isn't an emotional state. We convolute feeling and emotions. They're different. Emotions are a biological reaction, usually to something that is stimulating that biological reaction. We have different states of feeling. If you've ever felt peace, peace isn't an emotion. Peace is a state you're in. Love is a state. It's an eternal state. It's not an exchange romantically. We love the exchange of it, but that's coming from a state, right? So if we can actually listen to our body and move into a state of stillness and peace for a second, asking a question like, how can I move and find and discover presence right here and right now, and keep feeling the openness of that question, something will come up and drop you into a realization of where you are, and you will see that room and that space you're in almost in, we'll call it 4D. It becomes brighter. The sounds around you become more alive. You can hear and feel everything around you. And you'll know that you transit from a mental plane into a state called presence. And from there, literally, you can birth anything. Now, the best thing to do in that state is just to stay in that state for as long as you can. And once you're kind of getting the itch to come out of it, find a new powerful question from that state. Our world right now is requiring us to move into curiosity, not certainty or knowing. Because everything is fundamentally changing, curiosity is going to be your best friend. What's really happening to me? What's really happening around us? How can I? Not why. Well, I'll reframe this again. Why can be a powerful question if you're listening to like people like Simon Sinek, The Power of Why. Cool. That has to do with business. Why, usually used with internal dialogue, leads to a past reframe of why I'm broken. Why did I do that? Well, your brain it's like Google. It's just going to go access a reason you did that, right? So that's not helpful. What and how questions are really powerful questions. So, as an example, in a world with AI and quantum computing, you don't need to understand these things. You just need to understand that A, they're not going away, and B, they are fundamentally changing things unlike any technology on this planet. AI and robotics and quantum computing will be the future of doing, meaning when we do things, we think I build website. That's no longer, as it stands right now, I don't need to build website. I just need to tell AI what I want it to look like and it builds it. So I can be as creative as I want, but the doing goes away, right? A lot of jobs are going to be lost. A lot of old ways of doing things are going to be lost. If I can get present and discover what creativity is within me, I can stay in that state of curiosity and using curiosity to perpetuate ideas that I don't actually have to spend my hours doing because it can be done for me. That means the possibility of invention, the possibility of expansion, the possibility of creation is going to become almost infinite. But if you latch to your doing and your value is in what you do, not what you desire to create, you're going to get really lost. And so I'm only saying that in addition to what we were just talking about, the power of presence, because presence is going to be important. But from this point forward, those who are going to win are going to be the most curious people, not the most intelligent, because there's not a human on the planet that can keep up with these intelligences, not even artificial in my, again, not so humble opinion. And when we dive into that quantum computing, that is far beyond what any human understands. And so when those things start integrating themselves into our world, I don't fear it, not because I'm a techie nerd, but because I think it's a part of our growth. I think it can be a great assistance for our leap into greater and greater levels of connection, spirituality, and harmony if we use it right. If we do, we're going to be looking at a world where you and I can spend as much time connecting and playing and creating as we desire because we don't need to be the doer of the thing. And that opens us up to a lot of curious questions and states that we've got to start dealing with now, which is where is my real value and who am I really if it's not directly attached to the thing I'm doing? And that's been embedded in us since we were young. Who are you and what are you going to do? None of that's going to matter here. There is no amount of intellect that any human has that's going to surpass these technologies from this point forward. So we might as well be exploring our true intelligence. And that is the gifts from God. That is our ability to create. That is our harmony. That is our resonance. That is our way of participating in this world from a place of lightness, playfulness, and service. It was a different answer than just presence.
It's a good answer. I learned something there. Because I'm a question asker. I'm a curious person, and my curiosity is the one that has led me to know God as a spirit being, know myself as a spirit being. Curiosity has led the way for all of that. What I learned, because I'm also a doer, but what I learned by what you said there is that I need to be patient and leave the question open. A lot of times I will ask Jesus the question, I'll ask him to show me. So that is a way that I take my hands off of it. But questions that are more the practical, the business, the entrepreneur questions.
Mhm.
I need to leave it open instead of going, okay, I'm going to go here, here, here and research the question. I'm going to leave it
Mhm.
open. So thank you. I learned something
Mm. It's very difficult, I know, because you're very wise.
there.
Um, I'll add this real quick. So I'm playing in my connection to knowing with how much I share in this. So I'm going to try and keep it simple instead of a deep rabbit hole. But let's just start on the surface level to which we're never going to be able to comprehend, and that is God exists out of time and space. The beginning, middle, and end has already happened. It's already known, right? Within that, what you're talking about, and the reason why curiosity is so powerful without needing to get the answer is because the answer was already coded within you for anything and everything you're going to do. So the more patient you are, the more open you are, the more curious you are without needing to get the answer.
Mhm.
That origin answer from God is that thing that bubbles up within you. And so what's amazing is we assume that requires patience. It actually requires discipline and practice, not patience. Because of the programming of our mind to seek out an answer or need it now. The patience part is the needing it now, but the truth is it actually comes extremely quick in most cases,
Mhm.
particularly if we are looking at what builds momentum in our lives. What builds momentum isn't trying to leap into the big thing that I want to do in the world. It's all the micro steps, even down to whether I want an apple or a banana. I think I know. But if I actually use the banana and apple analogy as a form of practicing what is it my body's really wanting, what
Mhm.
would be deeply fulfilling for me, and then having the body respond with, this time it's actually a banana, not the apple. Then you consume that banana at a whole different way, and nutritional aspect of it actually corresponds and responds to the body in a much more potent way. Because something in my body may have needed those sugars or that particular type of potassium, right? And so if I am actually in practice with the simple things, I call it micro wanting and micro fulfillment. The little things that I pause in instead of, here's a different analogy. Let's say I wanted the banana, but I didn't have the banana. Now I've got to go on a journey, and that journey is destined for me because my body's intelligence may not even care whether I have the banana or not, but there's somebody I'm supposed to run into at the grocery store.
Uh-huh.
And if I don't listen to that, I miss all those God winks. I miss all of those connections. I miss all those synchronicities that seemingly make lucky people lucky.
Mhm.
And they're not lucky. They're just in a daily devotional practice to the micro wanting, and they're constantly putting themselves in the right place at the right time through that deep connection to knowing what's next right here, right now, and not getting lost in the dream of the thing, but presently following that journey and letting it unfold and not taking the easy route, right? If I've got an apple in the fridge, but my body's calling for the banana, most of us will just grab the apple and fill our body up.
Mhm.
Honestly, most grab the chips, if we're being honest, right? Which serves us in no way, shape, or
Mhm.
however. Well, that's not true. If I'm really craving that funness, I can eat chips and it doesn't
Mhm.
do anything to me because I
Mhm.
get that fulfillment and I only need it once this month, right?
Mhm.
Or this week. It's the resistance of that. I shouldn't eat that. I shouldn't eat that. Then perpetuates this addiction or this cycle of shame, guilt, and then we overconsume. Excuse me. So apple in fridge, banana in grocery store. If I can slow this down and find gratitude and find grace and find the journey of getting in the car and finding gratefulness for the fact that somebody built this car for me. The road was paved for me. This grocery store was made for us. Like, wow. And this banana was picked and I get to choose. Which one? Wow, like, wow. Then when you consume that banana, it's filled with all of this gratitude and love and a deep appreciation for the journey, for life, for the consumption, for the nutrients, for all of it, right? And we missed that now. It's so easy to just get the apple, and we're missing the entire experience. And it's when we align to the thing that isn't the easiest, it actually isn't hard when I'm in a space of gratitude on that journey. Even if I have to sit in traffic to get a banana, I'm there enjoying the music. I'm singing. I'm vibrant. I'm alive. And we need more of that. That's the juiciness. That's the juiciness that's missing in our lives is consumption from a place of ease. And we're missing all of it. And that's the only path, by the way, to get to the big thing, the big dream. It's the only path. You cannot force the big thing now. It just never works that way. It's like I don't the idea of instantaneous gratification doesn't even really do it. We'll use the mind. The mind is hardwired to release dopamine in the process of creation, not the attainment of the thing. Once it's attained, all of that goes away. So the funness is in the creating of things. And all we're doing is seeking the attainment and trying to get to the attainment. And we're missing literally the biological, spiritual, and mental and emotional experience, that full embodiment. That is true harmony, is when I can align to the process, to the journey, and to the curiosity along the way, filled with gratitude from a presence of love. Sorry, my
Now,
throat's
you've
dry.
answered this in part. My last question. The other question, you answered it anyhow. Not surprised. So, since Jesus' name is on this podcast, he asked several questions of people he came into contact with. He asked a whole lot more that weren't written down, but there's a good collection of those that were written down. In Mark 10:51, it says, "What do you want me to do for you?" He's asking those seeking healing, prompting clarity of desire. He's asking that. How would you answer him, and how should we answer him?
I'm not a fan of should. There's a density to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think every individual should find their own question from his question that leads them to the answer. So right now, I'm sitting in a space of curiosity. While I'm in this openness, my first question is, what could he do for me that he hasn't already done? And when I listen to my body, that question alone brings me into a state that we've been talking about. Wholeness and presence. I need nothing from there. So I might not answer him.
So, my feelers, when you said that, my feelers, feeling what's going on with in the environment, with the sound that's being released from the question, what do you want me to do for you? Jesus asking you, and your question back, what hasn't he already done for me? That has set people free. I could feel the free.
But belief isn't enough. Faith isn't enough. We have to find our knowing. And My knowing, again, doesn't come from my mind. When I paused just after you asked that question and allowed the resonance of the question to find a knowing, I know that everything has already been done that was ever going to be done. I know it. I know deeply and intimately this experience. And from that knowing, I just took that knowing and formulated it not into a statement, but back into a question that creates a container that allows for me to play in that container and creates that openness, not definitiveness. It's the same frequency, but the question keeps us open. And by sitting in openness, I literally have infinite access and infinite potential to anything that is here for me now. What's hitting me right now, what's pinging me is based on what we're talking about right now, the idea of ask and it shall be given to you. Mm-hmm. What if we just ask without needing to know it that we're trying to fill into the question? Just ask. Mm-hmm. And if I can play there, curiously knowing it will when it's time. What can't you experience? What can you discover about yourself, about life, about the people around you? Can you imagine people that used to be at odds only sitting in curiosity with each other? The whole thing changes. Mm-hmm. That's a fun one.
I know. It feels like, yeah, my desk just keeps filling up with questions, Okay, filling up with questions, filling up with questions.
This is a good analogy, by the way, of devotional practice. Many of us in a world of more and more possibility on all ends, on all spectrums, both that which we don't want to happen to us and that which we desire to happen to us, we recognize that there is a lot of choice today. The devotional practice through a place of presence and grounding is honing in on a question that creates the most resonance and staying there until it is fulfilled on its own. Too many questions diverts too much energy in too many directions, and nothing comes to fruition out of
I heard you.
it.
I heard you. We are going to wrap this up. I know. I know. We're going to wrap it up, but there'll be more. What connections do you have for people to reach out to you?
I mean, in all honesty, I really want to just serve. And so I'll put this two different ways. I'm open to anybody that feels called to just talk or whatever. With all the things I'm doing, I love making time for those that are curious, for those that are right. And so if you just want to say hi and reach out or tell me a story or whatever, feel free to do that at my email address, which is Devon K. Kerns or at Gmail. The website's devonkkerns.com. You can reach out to me on either one of those. I don't often, I'm being called more and more into levels of service that in some cases you might call coaching. I still have some sort of resistance around that. So I'm really not here to push that, but on a rare occasion for somebody that is being called or is building something that is of service to land or the economy or to governments or whatever at these large levels, or feels called to build something big, I occasionally feel excited to work with that person
Mhm.
if it feels right. But there's a lot that I'm involved in terms of sustainable projects. And like if you're in sustainability, if you're building something that has to do with land or economics or whatever, just reach out. Like I love connecting you to our CEOs and the right people and we, we're playing pretty big. So if I can be of service in any way, shape, or form, I guess that's the point. So feel free to reach out anytime. And other than that, reach out to Kristen. I mean, she's the rock star here.
Thank you. And listeners, remember that I will have all these connections in our show notes. So it's easy to find.
Perfect.
Yes. Yay. Thank you, Devon.
Thank you. This was amazing. I love your spirit is light and very fulfilling. So I'm grateful to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I learned some things today. That's the whole point, to
Good.
learn. And that means that the questions, there's some that I'm leaving open up, but now I have more of a framework. And so thank you. But there are questions um, that was wonderful. And answers came
Good.
through that.
Good.
Thank you for spending your time with us today.
Thank you for having me. What a special gift.
Thank you for joining us on this mystical and thought provoking journey. I told you this was my cup of tea. Did you have a good time? Did it cause you to think? Now, as you reflect on the insights shared, remember to embrace your humanity and our connection with God. Sit in it, ponder it, meditate on it, allow it to remain open. Let this episode inspire you to realign spiritually, seek practical wisdom, and ask empowering questions. Together, we can contribute. We need to see ourselves contributing to the societal healing and explore new paradigms in leadership. We need to experience and know Jesus speaking and moving through us, making the changes and differences in our world, in our economics, in the environmental sustainability. Amen. Great questions. If you found this episode valuable, please share it with others who might benefit from this message of hope and encouragement. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and for more content that fosters growth and discovery, let's continue to explore the beauty of being human, the experience, the influence, the positive change that we can make in the world. And I encourage you to continue to live spiritually brave. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I bless you. I will talk to you again next week. Bye now.